Get ready to learn about one of the most infamous characters in history, Joseph Stalin. He was a man of many titles, including the Man of Steel and the Red Star, and his life story is full of both darkness and absurdity. In this video, we'll dive into some of Stalin's most brutal acts and some of the more bizarre aspects of his personal life that will leave you scratching your head. So grab some popcorn and prepare to be simultaneously entertained and horrified. Let's take a trip down memory lane and explore the early days of the one and only Joseph Stalin. Born with the name Joseph Vissarionovich Zhukashvili on December 21, 1879 in Gori, Georgia, Stalin was the only surviving son of a cobbler named Vissarion Zhukashvili. Unfortunately, his father passed away in 1891, leaving Stalin's religious and illiterate mother, Ekaterina, to send him off to seminary school in Tbilisi. However, it seems like Stalin had different plans, as he was expelled from school for spreading subversive views that didn't align with the government's ideas. From there, he joined the underground revolutionary Marxist movement in Tbilisi, where he later got arrested, imprisoned, and exiled to Siberia, the equivalent of getting sent to the North Pole. But of course, Stalin being Stalin, he escaped in 1904 and rejoined the Marxist underground in Tbilisi. Talk about a wild ride. If you thought Stalin's life was already action-packed, wait until you hear about his daring escapades during the 1904-1905 revolution. Stalin earned a reputation as the ultimate bank robbery mastermind and money transporter raider, activities that may not have been everyone's cup of tea, but it was crucial to the Marxist movement's financial success. At congresses of the Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party, Stalin rubbed elbows with the likes of V.I. Lenin and even joined the Central Committee of the Bolshevik Party in 1912, earning himself a spot in the inner circle. However, Stalin's revolutionary career wasn't without its bumps in the road. He was arrested by secret police multiple times, escaped several times, and even got exiled to a village beyond the Arctic Circle. Way to keep things interesting, Stalin. It wasn't until the fall of Tsarism that Stalin emerged victorious and adopted his iconic nickname, Man of Steel. Then came his early days in Soviet Russia. After the fall of Tsarism, Stalin made his way to Petrograd and became the senior Bolshevik and editor of the party newspaper Pravda. He may not have had a big role in the preparations for the October Revolution, but he quickly rose through the ranks of the communist Soviet government, eventually becoming the People's Commissar for Nationalities. Stalin was a top dog in the party, serving on the Political Bureau and Organizational Bureau, and even becoming Secretary General of the party secretariat in 1922. Lenin recognized Stalin's skills as a politician and troubleshooter, and his position as Secretary General gave him control over all sorts of party personnel administration. So it's safe to say he was the big cheese in Soviet Russia after Lenin. During the time of Lenin's last illness and after he died in 1924, Stalin held a prominent role in the three-man committee responsible for governing the affairs of the party and the country. Stalin represented the right wing or the conservative faction of the party, which was committed to upholding the fundamental principles of the revolution. Together with his spokesperson Nikolai Bukharin, Stalin cautioned against reckless revolutionary activities and advocated for the continuation of the cautious and patient policies implemented by Lenin through the new economic policy, NEP. In 1927, Stalin successfully defeated the entire opposition and purged its leaders from the party. He then embraced much of their domestic program by launching a 5-year plan aimed at industrial development, which he implemented with an audacious degree of risk that upset many of his previous supporters. These individuals formed an opposition to him, but their resistance was short-lived as Stalin was able to quell the opposition swiftly and decisively. By the early 1930s, Stalin had amassed total control over the party, the state, and the entire Communist International. This consolidation of power cemented his position as a dictator, leaving him with unparalleled authority over the Soviet Union. One lesser-known story about Stalin involves his love for Western films. Despite his public disdain for capitalist culture, Stalin was a secret fan of Hollywood westerns and would often watch them in private screenings at the Kremlin. It's said that his favorite film was Thistory Rides Again, starring James Stewart and Marlene Dietrich. He allegedly watched it over 20 times and even requested a personal copy of the movie to keep in his private collection. Ah, dear old Uncle Joe. Despite being often portrayed as a towering figure, Stalin was actually quite short in stature. His height is disputed, standing anywhere between 5'3" and 5'6". As for his personality, well, let's just say it was highly controversial and remains somewhat of a mystery to this day. It's fair to say that Stalin could be crude and cruel, and in some ways, he was a primitive man. But in political life, he tended to be cautious and slow-moving, much like his writing style. Despite this, Stalin was also known for his cleverness as a speaker and a fierce debater. He had incredible energy and an amazing ability to absorb detailed knowledge, which no doubt contributed to his rise to power. However, when it came to his private life, little is known beyond the fact that he was always a lonely man. Tragically, Stalin experienced a great deal of personal loss throughout his life. His first wife, Ekaterina Svanitsy, passed away from tuberculosis, a terrible disease that attacks the lungs and bones. His second wife, Nadezhda Aluyeva, took her own life in 1932, possibly due to Stalin's dictatorial rule of the party. His only child from his first marriage, Jacob, was killed while in German custody during World War II. The two children from his second marriage outlived their father, but their relationships with him were often strained. Vasily, his son and an officer in the Soviet Air Force, sadly drank himself to death in 1962, while Svetlana, his daughter, fled to the United States in the 1960s. But enough with the personal facts. Let's get back to business with the Soviet Union under good old Joe Stalin. This guy was all about modernization and progress, and he did it all at breakneck speed with not one but two back-to-back 5-year plans. The military had a big role to play in all of this, but despite World War II taking a huge toll on the nation, the Soviet Union still managed to become a serious industrial powerhouse in the world, second only to the United States. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. The cost of this great achievement was steep. The Soviet Union had to sacrifice a lot, including all free enterprise and transforming agriculture into collectives. Unfortunately, this caused major damage to the country's food production and led to a tragic loss of life due to starvation. The living standards of the people were also severely impacted, and over 1 million people sadly lost their lives. And if all that wasn't enough, Stalin also threw countless people in jail and had many executed, including his party members and leading figures in various fields. It was a tough time for sure, but there's no denying that Stalin left a lasting impact on the Soviet Union and the world at large. Stalin's regime had a habit of sending anyone who spoke out against the government or even looked at them the wrong way straight to the gulags. Ah, the gulags. So what were they exactly? Well, think of them as vacation spots for people who really love hard labor. Just kidding, they were actually forced labor camps where millions of people were sent to work under brutal and inhumane conditions. And we're not talking about cushy jobs here. We're talking about back-breaking work, often in sub-zero temperatures, with little to no food or medical care. The mortality rate in the gulags was extremely low, with estimates ranging from 10% to a staggering 50%. And let's not forget about the psychological trauma. Many survivors of the gulags reported experiencing nightmares, anxiety, and depression long after they were released. So all in all, not the kind of place you'd want to book a stay at. Stalin was a man of many talents, but diplomacy was not one of them. Instead, he created a unique political system characterized by police control, a strong centralized government, and his dictatorship. This new system was so awful that historians still consider it one of the worst examples of totalitarianism in all of history. Stalin's government had complete political control and tolerated no opposition, making it a true one-man show. When it came to international relations, Stalin and his regime were isolationists. They preferred to keep to themselves and move away from building relationships with other countries. Starting in the 1930s, Stalin took personal control over the vast political and economic system he had established, managing it with an iron fist. What do I mean by that? The government controlled everything from the media to the economy, and anyone who dared to speak out against the powers that be was promptly silenced, usually with a one-way ticket to Siberia. Stalin's secret police, the infamous KGB, were always watching, listening, and ready to pounce on anyone who stepped out of line. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that Stalin's regime was about as far from a democracy as you can get. In May 1941, he even assumed the role of chairman of the Council of Ministers, giving him even more power. When Germany invaded the Soviet Union, Stalin also took command of the entire military establishment, further consolidating his authority. Some folks argue that Stalin made some pretty serious mistakes, but others give him credit for brilliant achievements. It's a mixed bag to say the least. Regardless, it's a fact that under Stalin's leadership, the Soviet Union managed to win the war, come out as a major player on the world stage, and even negotiate a distribution of the spoils of war that increased its power. Unfortunately, or fortunately, Stalin's time on this earth came to an end on March 5, 1953 due to a brain hemorrhage. He was laid to rest in a tomb right next to Lenin's tomb in the famous Red Square in Moscow. After his death, Stalin became a pretty controversial figure in the communist world. Some folks appreciated his great achievements, while others criticized his methods. It's all up for debate. It's clear that Stalin's reign of terror left a lasting mark on history, with millions of lives lost or irreparably damaged by his ruthless policies. But it's also important to remember that we can learn from the mistakes of the past and work towards a better future.